I would like to extend a very special welcome and a very special thank you to Suahasil Nazara, Vice Minister of Finance for the Republic of Indonesia. It is indeed a great honor to have you deliver the opening keynote address, Pak. I would also like to extend a warm welcome and a huge thank you to Pak Francois de Maricourt, President Director of HSBC Indonesia, for your partnership and valuable support to the Indonesia Economic Forum this year. Lastly, a very warm welcome to all our panel speakers, Pak Ict Budiono, Director of Commercial Banking, HSBC Indonesia, Pak Ilham Habibie, Chief Executive and, of the National ICT Council, and Pak Victor Lesmana, Director of Fintech, Payment, Logistics, and Virtual Payments, Bukalapak.com. It is a pleasure to have all of you on today's program. Now let's get started. Across Indonesia, the digital economy is becoming mainstream, no longer only for the millennials or confined to startups. Over the past 2 years, digital transactions have grown by a factor of 10 times in most categories. This growth has been partly accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, as consumers, businesses have adopted greater use of online technologies to work, shop, learn, and even pay their bills. Indonesia's digital economy, according to McKinsey & Company, will unleash $150 billion in new economic value by 2025. That is 15% of today's GDP. I think I can safely say that no other sector is poised to grow as fast and move the needle that much to contributing to economic and social progress. We can proudly say that Indonesia is home to the largest number of startups, of unicorns, of decacorns in Southeast Asia. Indeed, Indonesia has one of the highest number of startups anywhere in the world. But beyond the headlines, the digital economy is transforming our lives. Today, hundreds of thousands of Indonesians are able to start a business in their homes, support their families, and improve their lives. Many of these entrepreneurs are indeed women who have used access afforded by the internet to achieve financial independence. The financial sector has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of the digital economy. New payment gateways and fintech companies have allowed millions of Indonesians who were previously locked out from access to capital, who today can borrow funds to grow their businesses. Traditional banks have extended digital services to their consumers, and perhaps in the near future, brick and mortar bank branches will become less critical. According to statistics, there are 64 million micro, small, and medium enterprises in Indonesia. They employ 97% of the nation's workforce and contribute 57% of real GDP. Unleashing their creativity, productivity, and entrepreneurship is Indonesia's pathway to sustainable and, more importantly, equitable growth. Getting there, however, will not be easy, nor is it a given. To fully benefit from the new digital age, the country must invest and build its ICT infrastructure, as well as adopt modern technology. This is critical, as if we are to expand access to the internet beyond the large urban areas and to boost business efficiency and productivity. While consumers have been quick to adopt to the digital age, businesses have been a little bit slower. Beyond the internet, Indonesia must adopt the new technologies such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, Internet of Things, and big data analytics. These technologies are foundations of the fourth industrial revolution and cut across all sectors, from manufacturing to natural resources to agriculture, health, finance, and transportation. Bottom line is that Indonesia wants to achieve maximum benefits of the digital age. For the government, businesses, and society at large must work hand in hand. The nation has taken the first steps towards greater digitalization. Now we must accelerate the process, invest heavily in ICT infrastructure, adopt new technologies and business processes. If Indonesia wants to be a player on the global stage, we must evolve and grow from being consumers of technology to being creators of new technology and innovation. Thank you very much. Can we please play the HSBC video, and then we will have Pak Suahasil Nazara, Vice Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia, to give his opening keynote address.
Things are looking up. Your business is growing. So what's your next step? A bigger office? A new supplier? Your next big contract overseas? Your business has growing needs. You'll need more support, more flexibility, more resources, and a bank that makes it their business to help expand your business. Welcome to Business Banking with HSBC. All our experience and expertise brought right to you so that you and your business can take the next step. You'll have support from a dedicated relationship manager and access to our global network of experts. The flexibility to manage your finances across multiple devices. International accounts all on one platform. And much more. So choose Business Banking with HSBC and take your next step.
Okay, Pak, you're on. Pak Suahasil, thank you very much, and welcome to the Indonesia Economic Forum HSBC Roundtable. We are very glad and very privileged and very honored to have you as our keynote address, to deliver our keynote address this morning to our audience, a global audience of close to more than 100 individuals. Pak Suahasil, the stage is yours.
A very good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak before you all. And firstly, I would like to convey my appreciation to Indonesian Economic Forum and also the HSBC who are holding this event. This is a very important topic that is about the boosting growth and creating jobs through the digital transformation. And basically, there will be a very interesting panel later who will speak about a lot about the digital transformation in Indonesia and then how we should go about it. I would like to start my opening speech this morning by giving you an overview about the Indonesian economy and also the phases that the situation that we face. And later I will also mention several items about the digital transformation that are pushed by the government. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with the recent economic development. Of course, we all know the situation that we are facing right now. A lot of you most likely have been working from home or at least has a very limited traveling to office or other places, limited physical meetings, and a lot of discussion, a lot of meetings, a lot of interactions now are carried out by the virtual meeting, just exactly like what we are having this morning. This is true in a lot of area of work, not only in business or in the private sectors. Bureaucracy is interestingly also adapt to the changes of digital meeting. In the Ministry of Finance, we are moving to even to the digital administration, digital signature, digital meetings, of course. And so some of us actually call most likely COVID is the best chief information and technological officer at these days. We are forced to go to the digital by the COVID, and we are transforming ourselves into a virtual society. And of course, that is quite unprecedented. But if we are thinking about it, most likely this is the way to go. I understand that there is a very enormous effort right now to find vaccines. And at the time when it is later we will have the vaccine, we really hope that vaccinations will bring the better confidence of the people, the society, to interact more and carry on with the economic activities. Despite that, we also believe that the future is going to be more digital than our past, at least our living past. The way for digital is the way of the future. So it is something that is very important to understand and to grip. We must have a better grip about that. But in the meantime, it is very important to look at the challenge. It is very important to start. If we look at the challenge, we start with the situation that we are in now. The global pandemic, 47.8 million cases already by yesterday, 400,000 lives already passed away. And despite the recovery rate is quite high, but it is still deadly. And this is happening all over the world. It is not only in Indonesia, it's all over the world. And this is what brings the different parts of the world into the digitalization of their lives and of the people's interaction. Right from the beginning, I think I can remind you that the first case, the first positive COVID-19 case in Indonesia was identified in March the 2nd, 2020. And starting February, when we start to look at the case of China and also Europe, especially Italy at that time, we start to feel that we have to have better understanding about what's going to happen with the economy. And that is actually the most important task that we did back in February and March. In March, Indonesia had the first positive case. We went into work from home mode by mid of March. And there we realized that the economy will be under pressure. The government will have to be the one who step up. The private sector we understand at that time in our projection, consumption will go down, investment will be affected. And it is very important for the government to step up. That's why in March, we understand government revenue will be declining because the economy is contracting. And at the same time, the government spending is very important to step up. So that's why starting in March, we have already foreseen the economy. Pressure will come, private sector will be affected, and the government deficit must go up. And of course, later on, we see the numbers that are coming up. So the numbers for the first quarter, we still had a positive GDP, 2.97%. The second quarter, that includes the months of April and May, where the economy was really, the at the bottom. Measurements such as the mobility index and others that are also possible because of the digitalization of lots of our lives show that the highest pressure to the economy during April and May, we end up with a contraction of 5.3%. But the same mobility tracking, which I mentioned earlier, was made possible by the digitalization of our lives, also shows that August onward until now, starting July, August, September, October, we start to see the mobility again. And we understand that that is a basis for our recovery. That is the basis of our economic activity, recovery of our economic activity. So despite the 5.3% economic contraction back in the second quarter, we understand that the third and the fourth quarter, we will recover. We will be still in the negative territory of economic growth for the whole 2020, but it's going to be much less compared to the second quarter number contraction of 5.3%. And of course, it is not easy to predict the economy, to predict what's going to happen in the economy back in March and April or in the beginning of this pandemic. The IMF, the World Bank, they changed their projections a number of times, and despite the fact that we are trying to have better projection for the 2020, it is also very important to project for the 2021, to look at where the economy is heading, where are the priorities that we must put, and so on. So it is an ongoing effort by lots of agencies, despite the economic recovery programs that we try to put in the 2020. So in the 2020, I believe that you all know the responses from the government is to step up the fiscal policy, the government's expenditures increase, budget deficit is increased, and of course, right now we are on the last column, the Perpres number 72, 2020 put our budget deficit at 6.34% of the GDP. This is, of course, has the direct consequences on the financing, but we do think that the financing is going to be very, very important because the deficit is directed to expenditures to handle the economy. Handling the economy means that we put more budget for health, we put extra budget to support the social protection, especially for the poor and the vulnerables. And we also step up the government expenditures for the sectoral and regional government. And we also provide a lot of support for our micro and small medium enterprises. Go to the next slide, please. Our small and medium enterprises, and of course for the corporate financing. And most importantly, we put in a number of incentives for the tax incentives, for the business incentives. So the government reduced the corporate income tax this year to 22%. And later, in 2 years, we will reduce it furthermore to 20%. That will put Indonesia in a better position, competitiveness in terms of the corporate income tax rates with our neighbor. And we really hope that the private sector and also business sector will make the best out of this situation by investing more in Indonesia. And together with the structural reform, we put in place that we have in the government that we don't want to get out of this pandemic only just getting out of the pandemic. We have to get out of this pandemic with a better reform mindset. That's why despite this pandemic, we are launching our job creation law, the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, which already been approved by the parliament, and now we are preparing all the necessary operational guidelines to make sure that the investment climate can be improved, and at the same time, job can be created. So it is very important that we are going to have this, and a lot of the ideas that are put into this omnibus law is an ideas for the structural reform. Structural reform that involves the central government, better connection with the, or better coordination with the local government across sectors, and at the same time also protection to our labor, our workers. So it is the new program of Jaminan Kehilangan Pekerjaan will be one that put our workforce in a better security, in addition to the existing social security for labor that we already have. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that if we look at the situation now, we look at also at the 2021. This is already November 2020. We are going to make sure that from the fiscal side, we will finish the budget 2020, and looking forward to the implementation of the 2021 budget. So what is the logic? What is the continuation of the logic here? Please go to the slide number 22. Of course, we have to continue with our extraordinary policy. The immediate response, extraordinary policy should continue. And at the same time, we must put in place different policies that will allow the economy to recover. And at the basis of everything is the health sector is very important, and this is an area I think that is also a future of Indonesia. Indonesia Economic Forum can also look at this health sector very specifically, maybe in later discussion or later seminar, because the health sector is going to be a sector that is very important. It is a sector that is not only about charity. It is a sector that offers great opportunities, very important for the business sector, and will be very, very important for the society at large. So health sector as the very basic, as the basis of everything, and then the government policy on top of that, that allows the recovery and reform. Recovery from the pandemic and reform for the structural reform, I mean, for the better Indonesia in the future. So if we look at the 2021 budget for the 2021, let's go to slide number 24. I will just go to the very basic things that usually are discussed in the public. That is the number of our deficit. The deficit, fiscal deficit for 2020 was set at 6.3% of the GDP, and next year we set our fiscal deficit still expansion. The budget is still on the expansionary mode. Our fiscal deficit at 5.7% of the GDP next year. We really hope that economic growth next year can be around 5.0% with the inflation around 3%. With the fiscal deficit of 5.7%, we should be at the right path toward 2023. The year 2023 in our fiscal policy is very important because that is the year when the budget is going to have the fiscal deficit back below 3% of the GDP. I think that some of you who are in the fiscal policy or financial sector looking at it very carefully, you know, understand that Indonesia is very disciplined in terms of our fiscal deficit. So despite the fact that this year we need the fiscal deficit higher than 3%, we set the time, that is 2023, where we should go back below 3% of the GDP for the fiscal deficit again. We are on that path, and of course the reduction of the fiscal deficit should be done gradually, and that is why from 6.3% this year, we are gradually down to 5.7 next year, toward 2023. It is also very important that on our 2021, we continue to be concentrating on the improving the health, social protection, small medium enterprises, and also the things that are very important for the economy, including the digital and ICT preparedness of Indonesia. So let me go now to the digital economy during this pandemic. I think we all agree that the digital economy has slipped to the pace that are unprecedented in the history. It's very fast. I mentioned earlier how COVID is jokingly called the Chief Information and Technological Officer. Despite all of the jargon about moving to IT, improving ICT, I think in the last 5 years, the development in the last 5 years, or the use of digital economy in the last 5 years was nothing compared to what the kind of increase that we see in the last, let's say, 6 months or 8 months. This is that means it's a way forward for us. As I mentioned earlier, although later we may be having the vaccine, confidence may be restored, but I think the digital activities will continue to be very close to us. And there are also a number of surveys already that are put in place, how these digital activities changing the people's behavior. Go to slide number 15 or 13 from my slide. 13. People spending most of their time at home. People spending most of their money at home. People watch a lot more TV. People reduce eating out, cooking more, bringing food from outside. A lot of business sectors, restaurants are now they are taking deliveries. They are having the digital platform, and a lot of bureaucracy also is working from home, like what I'm doing now. All meetings are still there. There were times when within the Ministry of Finance, we conduct a quick survey among our staff. Some people said that actually with the working from home, their working hours is much higher. There is also notes that with working from home, they can look at their children more. Some people says that by staying at home and then conducting meetings through Zoom, like what we are having now, it's better for them because they can look at their children going to school, which is just next on the next room or side by side with them. So it is very important that in the future, it's about the one thing. It's about the connectivity. It's about the internet connectivity, virtual connectivity, and internet data connectivity will be very, very important. Gadget will be very, very important. And any works toward the smaller, simpler, maybe cheaper gadget will be very, very a good business to the future. Internet data is very important. Internet data subsidy, that's why the government is thinking about, government is providing internet data subsidy to support students and also the bureaucracy to work from home. We do have internet data assistance policy on our recovery program, and that is for the internet assistance and also providing internet in a lot of public places. And we really hope that all of this will be good for Indonesia in the future. And one area where it will be very, very important for the digital transformation becoming an urgent needs is, can we go to slide number, my slide number is very small, 18. If you look at the Indonesia on the left, this is a comparison of economic growth, contribution of economic growth. Indonesia, this is from the Asian Productivity Data Book, and this is data for the average between 2010 and 2017. Look at Indonesia. The source of our economic growth is not visible from the blue line, which is the total factor productivity. A lot of our growth are coming from the capital and labor. And of course, the total factor productivity, which is the competitiveness, way to do things, the management, and others, are important in the economy. And we really think that ICT should be the basis for this. If we are going to be sustainable in the long term, it is very important to have the total productivity growth that are sustainable. And we do believe that the ICT is very important, and this is in line with the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Ranking. If we look at Indonesia over there, which is the gray shaded area, and we try to look at where we are short from Malaysia or even Korea, which is on the larger spider web. We look at the boxes that are the red boxes. You will find that we are short in terms of the innovation capability. We are short in terms of the financial system and also the ICT adoption. And of course, health, as I mentioned earlier, and skills and others. We are good in terms of the market size, for example. It's something that is obvious. So that is why if we are looking at this, it's very important to understand that this is our future challenge. And of course, President Joko Widodo has already mentioned that. And if we go to slide number 27, yeah. There are several directions toward the digital transformation that President Joko Widodo has already made, and some of them are actually put on the video earlier before this event. Acceleration of access and improvement of digital infrastructure. We do need digital transformation map and integration of national data centers, digital talent, the human resources, and also the regulation funding scheme and digital transformation financing. And that is why in 2021, our budget will allocate quite a big amount for our ICT support. And of course, this is beyond the Ministry of Communication and Information Technology alone. There are our ICT support are scattered or spread through several ministries. So if you, for those who would like to look at the government ICT budget, please look at the several ministries. And I try to put this. Can we go to the next slide, please? The Ministry of Communication and Information Technology, Ministry of Social Affairs also has a ICT budget. Ministry of Land and Spatial Planning, National Land Agency also has the ICT budget. Ministry of Finance, we are improving our core tax system, which is also an IT-based tax system that are of international standard, and they are also in other line ministries. And don't forget that we also transfer some amount of money for the region specifically for the ICT budget. So the ICT budget is not only one ministry, it is spread through several ministries that are very important. So ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that I would like to stress here that digital economy, digital transformation is the way forward. And to some extent, digital transformation is our agent of change. It is what going to change Indonesia. Earlier, I heard that digital inclusion. It is very important that our digital transformation includes everyone, allows everyone to participate in the activities in the economy. Digital inclusion is more than just connectivity. It's more than just gadgets. It is also about attitude. It is also about the mindset toward digital interaction. At the same time, our digital transformation also must put in place the security, improving the security of our digital transaction, security of our digital data, safety, and so on. These are the areas I think that are very, very important to address, and very important that I'm very happy that the Indonesia Economic Forum is very much into this. So, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the digital economic activity, it is I would like to close my remarks this morning by saying that in our understanding, digital economic activity is also going to be developing a lot, because this is already part of the way we live. It is going to be part of the way we conduct business. And I understand that there are always questions whether how the government is going to see this. We understand that the economic digital transaction will continue to increase as the economic recovery sets in. It is very important that digital transformation includes the digital business. Digital business is also any agent of change. It is part of how we are transforming Indonesian economy. So let me once again wish you all very fruitful discussions later with all the very, very prominent speakers in the panel. Hopefully we will be able to be out of this pandemic, continue our life. This is a new way of life, is very clear ahead of us. Within the government, we will do our best to make sure that the new way of life is going to be providing Indonesia with a better future. Together with the reform, the structural reform that we introduced, I really also hope that the digital transformation is going to continue and will be part of better and more prosperous Indonesia in the future. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good day.
Okay, Pak. Thank you very much. In terms of, you mentioned that over the next 2-3 years, the government will continue to run a budget deficit of 5% next year, and then bring it down into 2023. Will the government spending on ICT infrastructure also increase in the next 2 years?
I think so. As I mentioned earlier, what I try to, one message that I try to convey earlier is that government ICT spending, government ICT expenditures is more than just one ministry. It is a collection of approach on the different path of government services. I think right now, let me take an example from the Ministry of Finance. We are spending quite a lot right now, making sure that our tax system is upgraded in terms of the IT system. We are now in the process of installing what we call the core tax system, which is a system that only very less than, it's a handful providers only in the world that can provide. We try to provide that, and that will make the Indonesian tax system is much more friendly, much easier to access, providing better certainty to all of the taxpayers later in the future. So moving toward this kind of activity. Then the Ministry of Information and Communication is providing the satellite connection, connectivity, and not only that, the Ministry of Education is providing the internet support, data support to students and others. And so these are all the concerted efforts to make sure that we are better connected. So this is going to be the way of the future. Of course, we will look at it very carefully from time to time. But for next year, it's already a very big spending, and I believe it's going to be also very important in the many years to the future.
Thank you very much, Pa. I think just one last question. The digital economy, as we said earlier, is now becoming mainstream. So it's no longer just kind of peripheral, and we focus. Every sector of the economy will require digital technologies, and I think the multi-ministry expenditure on digital infrastructure and digital products, I think, reflects the government's commitment and attention to this. So, would you say that digital economy going forward could be one of the key drivers of GDP growth? And do you see it maybe becoming like a top 2 or a top 3 driver of growth amongst the other sectors?
I think, on the ICT sector, the communication sector will be very, very important. It is one sector which is going to be very fundamental on the new way of life. So agriculture will still be very important, but how the digital transformation can touch our agricultural sector, it will be very fundamental for the agricultural sector. Manufacturing is also very important. Manufacturing is very important, but then how the digital transformation actually touch our manufacturing sector will be very important. So, and then when we look at this economy for this year, next year, and maybe in the next 2-3 years, communication is something that will continue to be, people going to look for it, better way of communication, and the provider in this area will be very, I think this is going to be one of the sector that will continue to develop, and maybe one of the sector that during this pandemic can continue to be of higher economic growth compared to other sectors as well.
Okay, Pa, thank you very much. Just one quick question. We have a lot of financial leaders of financial industry on our program today. Can I just ask you, your own thoughts and your ministry's approach to fintech and financial inclusion, where the banking sector works with fintech companies and works with payment gateway companies. Do you see that expanding and deeper collaboration and the ministry supporting it and the government supporting it through regulation and probably incentives?
We are supporting the financial inclusion and financial deepening, making sure that more and more Indonesians are part of, they can enjoy the financial services. That is very important for Indonesia. And of course, at the same time, we would like to make sure that not only people involved, included in the financial services, but also improving the financial literacy at the same time. And of course, the digital is a way to go for that. It's very important, like you said earlier. Now, I think most of the people especially in urban areas, they are no longer looking for the bank branches. They already have their banks on their handheld. It's very important. It's going to continue to improve. Banking sector will have to change the way they look at their business process. Some of them already been more advanced than others, of course. Investment in ICT will be very, very big by these banks. And of course, as you know, banks are very well motivated for improving their access, market share, and everything. Let them do whatever they think that are very important. On the government side, we are looking at how to include more people, how the people can better understand, better education, better literacy, and also at the same time, the financial stability. Of course, the regulators like OJK must continue to look at the data, security, safety, and all that, products and etc. And the government will have to look at the financial stability, making sure that the improvement on the financial sector, the development in the financial sector, ICT based, is happening on the fine and proper way, and introducing the financial stability at the same time. We support that, and in terms of the incentives, I think there are a lot of incentives in the financial sector that the government has already put for the startup and others. I mentioned earlier the government who give the reduction in the corporate income tax rates from 25% to 22%, and later will go down further to 20%. It's a way for the business sector to step up. And once we are out of this pandemic, I really hope that the business sector will pick it up and ready for the new reform together with all regulatory frameworks that we continue to improve. The Omnibus Cipta Kerja, I think, is a platform that we will continue to operationalize, and I really hope that the business sector will make the best case out of that, and at the same time employing more people, increasing our job creation, and protecting our labor. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you very much, Pak. Thank you so much for your time and for your deep insights. And I think the business community and our participants will be very encouraged by your comments. And I think the government of Indonesia, Pak Jokowi, and your ministry, and of course yourself, deserve a lot of credit for managing the COVID pandemic economic impact, because I think Indonesia, although we will see negative growth this year, is still amongst the better position within the region and globally. So thank you very much, Pak. We hope that we will have the honor to have you again on our platform, the Indonesia Economic Forum, and host you for our future discussions. Thank you very much, Pak.
Thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Pak.
Yang dimana shock dari COVID ini betul-betul memukul, dan kemampuan kita untuk mengcounternya tidak bisa menetralisir cukup besar.
Memprioritaskan kesehatan bukan berarti mengorbankan ekonomi. Sekali lagi, kita harus mencari keseimbangan yang pas.
Yang dimana shock dari COVID ini betul-betul memukul dan kemampuan kita untuk mengcounternya tidak bisa menetralisir cukup besar.
Memprioritaskan kesehatan bukan berarti mengorbankan ekonomi. Sekali lagi, kita harus mencari keseimbangan yang pas.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Suahasil, for his very enlightening discussion. I think he's given us a lot of points and talking issues to raise. Can we now move on to our panel discussion? We have three very distinguished speakers with us. Pak Ict Budiono, who is the Director of Commercial Banking at HSBC Indonesia. Pak Ilham Habibie, who is the Chief Executive of the National ICT Council, WANTIKNAS, and Pak Lesmana, who is Director of Fintech, Payment, Logistics, and Virtual Products at Bukalapak. We can start a panel discussion with Pak Eri. Eri, please, the floor is yours in terms of your short presentation, after which we will have an open discussion. Pak Eri, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we are also talking about remote working as a result of the which is the new normal now. Many companies have adopted work from home scenario and have been thinking to continue this post pandemic. Some may opt to move to flexible hour scenario. All of these will drive offices increasing their desk sharing ratio and reducing the office space footprint. At HSBC Indonesia, we are also we are proud of our digital technology. Our working from home ratio is currently at 75%, and going forward, we'll continue to invest in the digital technology as virtual interactions will become more the norm. We also learned that Twitter and Facebook allow the employees to work from home forever under some certain conditions. I think the key to remote working is that productivity rate does not drop. The other aspect of the new normal, thank you. The other aspect of this new normal is leisure time will increase because of time saved. So one obvious impact of the digitization of the economy is time saving. As processes are automated, activities can be accomplished more quickly. Hence, the time saved can be used by people for more leisure activities, which can be in the form of digital as well as physical leisure. I mean, a good example we are seeing in Indonesia that people are taking up cycling as it is considered safer than other types of sport. Online shopping and digital banking, we are seeing that, but I think in particular for Indonesia, according to Bank Indonesia, growth in e-commerce and banking transactions via digital channel in Indonesia has grown by 39 and 38% respectively, quarter to quarter, by quarter two this year only. Again, at HSBC, we are seeing a significant year-on-year growth in our digital banking transactions volume, and customers shifting towards digital channel by 70% and 80% respectively. Slide 5, please. So, yeah, slide 5, Nika. Yeah, so in view of the trend, the government of Indonesia is taking actions and addressing the digital payment infrastructure. You know, as people expect to be able to settle transactions online in a real-time manner, do transactions anytime, anywhere, and do transactions in multiple channels and payment methods, such as e-wallet, bank transfer, credit card, in a safe and secure manner. So to support this, Bank Indonesia has formulated 2025 Indonesian payment vision as a means to overhaul the Indonesian's payment platform. And these are, you know, this development are welcome, which include standardized quick response-based payments or QR code, which was launched late last year. Next will be BI Fast project, which is a real-time payment capability, which allows immediate transfer of funds between banks in a cost-effective way. And then an open API standardization. Hopefully, all of this will support the development of the country's digital economy, innovation within the banking industry, and enhance the banking penetration, as well as the financial inclusion in Indonesia. So the first graph basically illustrates that Indonesia is behind countries like China, India, and Brazil in terms of mobile money account and internet penetration. We have a good chance to increase the banking penetration or financial inclusion by the drop in cash payments as a result of pandemic. In addition, the government must continue to fast-track the implementation of the QR code payments I mentioned earlier. Estimates from McKinsey suggest that digital finance has potential to provide access to financial services for about 1.6 billion people in the emerging world, and providing access to financing for low-income segment of the population. It also allows governments to save about $110 billion per year by reducing leakages in spending and tax revenue. Clearly, there are many economic benefits of raising banking penetration rates. The graph at the bottom illustrates what I said earlier, that Indonesia needs to play catch up and focus on digital infrastructure investments as digital economy grows. Unfortunately, we rank within the low in this graph, in this score. So hopefully, you know, we spoke about Indonesian government focus in improving the digital infrastructure, and hopefully that puts us in a more ready category in the future. So, slide 7, please. Essentially, this just provides a construct of the digital economy and the factors behind, factors driving it, which we been discussing about. So with that, I'm concluding my presentation. I'm giving back the floor to moderator Pak Shoeb. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Eri. Very insightful presentation. I think we can quickly move on to the panel discussion. I understand Pak Ilham. Pak Ilham, can you please unmute? Yes, Pak Ilham. Thank you very much. I think I know you have a hard stop. Maybe we can start a conversation now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that, you know, as we move into the digital economy, talent and the ability for people to, for students to actually take over the jobs that will be created will be critical. and you think the vocational training, and we need to crank up literacy in ICT. How critical is the education system towards ensuring that we gain the benefits of digital economic growth?
Yeah, I think it is a lot of the jobs that we foresee in the so-called new normal. We are not in a new normal yet. I have to add that, right? We are transitioning into the new normal. They are really not yet known and defined. And so it's hard to say what kind of job is actually going to be exactly needed and what kind of skills do you have to have for that job. However, we know that we actually more aware, more knowledgeable about the skills that need to be there. And you mentioned the keyword literacy, tech literacy, digital literacy. If you take the term literacy itself, I mean, traditionally is reading, writing, and speaking well, right? And maybe a bit more than that sometimes. But tech literacy is something very different. I mean, you have to be problem solving, have knowledge about that, critical thinking. If you go a little bit more detail, it would be good to understand a little bit more about computers and about programming and these kind of things. Doesn't mean that we are all going to be programmers, but it's same, like if you can read and write, we are not all journalists, right? I mean, we have to have a basic knowledge to be well-functioning members of our society, and we go from there. So that's only about the knowledge part, but also the way things are being taught. I mean, there's something called STEM or STEAM education, which not only emphasizes the topics of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, but it also changes the way we teach. It's more hands-on. Technology, hard sciences are very difficult, very abstract to understand if you don't try it out. And the tryout piece, basically call it a maker kind of attitude. So you have a problem, you think about it, you have a definition phase, you innovate about the program, and you implement it, build a prototype. Hands-on, it changes the way people understand things and it makes it clearer. You don't have to be a specialist, but the very fact that you try things out with your own hands changes a lot. And that, I think, is something universal. No matter you're going to be a factory worker, you're going to be a white collar, you're going to be a manager, an entrepreneur, everybody should have this experience. It's really eye-opening.
Right, so really learning by doing, yeah? And that is
learning by doing, exactly. Particularly when it comes to technology, it's so abstract. You don't really understand if you don't put your hands to work, and it's not rocket science anymore. The technology has made technology easier to understand, actually, but still there's this barrier that we need to overcome.
Right, right. Pak Victor, if I may come to you, Pak Victor.
Here?
Yes. Yeah, you work for Bukalapak, which is, I would say one of the rising unicorns in Indonesia. It's a technology company. How does Bukalapak approach the issue of digitalization and technology, especially in terms of your employees and getting them up to scratch in not just using technology, but understanding the technology that they're using?
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Shoeb. So I'll probably answer it in two parts. The first part is related about how actually bring the technology to Indonesia, and second is to address on the talent itself. So if you look into the overall Indonesian internet economy, we know that it's actually growing rapidly. It's currently at $40 billion. But then if you look into the overall GDP, it's actually still less than 5%. It's probably closer to 3 to 4%. And then as we can see, it has been dominated by e-commerce by about 50% of the share of this 40 billion market in the digital economy. And it's expected that it's going to triple, more than triple in the next 4 or 5 years until 2025. But if you look into it, I think also Pak Ilham, also Pak Suahasil has mentioned earlier, there's actually a lot of these components about digital literacy, about inclusion, about to be able to bring people who previously was not being touched by technology to be able to use it and become a productive contributor to the economy. And then this is where we can also see that in Indonesia, I think there's a lot of Even though we have seen actually a lot of growth, we can see that they have been concentrated many times in the big cities like the Jakarta or Surabaya or the first tier cities. But if we go even further to the second tier, the third tier cities, they are still not well penetrated yet in terms of their digital penetration or literacy. And I think something that have been interesting, because we have actually an actual case study earlier when we actually supported the government program in the Kartu Prakerja. It has we actually have seen that yes, it actually is a very effective component of bringing people to start learning how to use digital, because all the learnings is being done through this digital learning, digital teaching. But at the same time, we can see that it's very difficult to get people outside of let's say the big islands of the Java and Sumatra. If you go to Papua, there's a lot of agencies that are not able to be participating in this program, even though it actually has a great potential to help their economy. And this is where I think all the technology players, including Bukalapak and also with the government, we can actually work together to bring this digital literacy going forward, because we believe that SMEs, which is currently accounting approximately 60% of Indonesia's GDP, as well as 97% of domestic workforce are in the SME sectors, which is actually pretty big. If we can actually bring this digital literacy component and they are becoming proficient in technology, I'm sure they will contribute much more, become much more productive to the economy. And this is where, for example, in Bukalapak, our mission is a fair economy for all. We have worked a lot with our O2O initiative, like the Mitra Bukalapak, which is how we actually bring this technology, how we bring this technology to the people who might not be in the beginning are comfortable using technology, but once they use it, they say, hey, actually it helps me to be able to be more productive, right? And these are some of the things that we are, as a company, we are trying to do. At the same time, in terms of the talent, I can see that in Indonesia, the government is trying to push a lot of this in the education sector. We actually have a lot of good universities in Indonesia who are teaching technologies or in the tech sectors. We actually have been hiring a lot of these people. One of the things that we learned is they didn't have enough exposures to the actual working of the needs in the workforce. Like many times they are still being they are very strong in the academics, and that's why we have been trying to support a lot in terms of this, for example, giving internships kind of programs. I think it will help to be able to bring our tech talents. Then they can actually get a real experience on how they actually what they learn in school can be directly contributing to the economy.
Okay, Pak, thank you very much. Pak Eri, maybe I can come to you now. You mentioned in your presentation, of course, the key, one of the key benefits of digitalization is actually greater economic efficiency, right? And productivity, because for a long time, Indonesia has been regarded as less efficient in its economic processing, in its productivity. Do you see digitalization as a potential problem, a potential solver of that issue in terms of raising of productivity, and as Pak Ilham said, moving beyond just focusing on low-cost labor-intensive industries?
Yes, absolutely. But that's we are seeing increase in I think in Pak Suahasil's presentation, the mobility through digitization has actually contributed to the economic recovery. So we must continue to do that, and obviously there's a lot of homework that we need to address, right? In terms of the infrastructure is clearly there, the regulatory framework, also touching on talents, right? We are seeing some talent constraints. So how do we address that? So at the moment, hopefully the omnibus law would allow maybe hiring of expats to get while we are, fixing the digital literacy within the country. So, can we maybe get some expats and, get them to transfer knowledge to us. So, so everybody obviously has to, work hand in hand together to support the growth in the digital economy. I mean, no doubt the benefits of that is clearly in terms of productivity.
Right. But Ilham, I know you need a hard stop at noon. Maybe if you could just give us some closing thoughts that you may have in terms of how Indonesia should be moving towards greater adoption of technologies and using the digital era. I mean, we talk about all the technologies: cloud, IoT, AI, big data analytics. What is the approach that we should take as a country, as a nation, towards greater adoption of all these what we call Industry 4.0 technologies?
Yeah, I think thanks for the question, Shoeb. I think the main point for me as now I talk as WANTIKNAS. Yeah, WANTIKNAS is a government entity that is actually on the working level very cross-sectoral. I'm not a government person. I'm a business guy, and I represent the business sector there. And this time, since 6 years, actually, I happen to head this government body, which is more like an advisory body. And we have for years already, I was already in charge of this body since President SBY. And I've now switched to my second president, and still I'm preaching the same tune, which is, okay, we all agree, we need cloud, we need AI, we need IoT, big data analytics and blockchain and what have you. But one thing for sure, what counts is the implementation. How do you implement that? We don't have a cloud first policy. We don't have a clear policy regarding AI. Everything is slow and very difficult to implement. Why is that? It's one point only. We need clear leadership, and not president leadership, but if it comes, of course, the president is on top of everything. But if you look at other countries, how do they implement? They have something called, in today's world, we would call it the Chief Digital Officer. There's one guy who is a girl who is either a minister or he's a head of a non-ministerial body or even in the office of the president. We don't care. You have basically in many countries, you have different examples for everything, right? So Singapore does it differently than Japan, differently than US, but there needs to be somebody in charge. Remember when Minister said, yes, the Ministry for, for Communication and Informatics does this, and then there's a piece maybe at the Ministry for Education, and there's another piece for the Ministry for Bureaucratic Reform and the use for the state apparatus, etc. There's also a piece of what we need together under one roof in a clear direction. That is missing. Otherwise, it will be a mess always. When somebody says this and the other one says that, and I mean, just look at how data is managed at the government. Yeah? Everybody has their own data center, and sometimes we have this tumpang tindih, we say in Indonesia, but for basically an overlap of the same type of data, but with different values and different interpretations, and it confuses everybody, including the government itself. So basically, we need clarity there. There is a decision there, however, regarding the data center. The future will have a national data center for the governments. Yeah, so we'll government only. Yeah, so this is basically to be set up one in Jakarta, one in the new capital, one in Batam because it's close to Singapore. The gateway to outside Indonesia go through Singapore, and another one, actually another gateway goes through somewhere near Manado. I think Dumai. No, not Dumai. Bu something. It's a harbor. Bitung. So Bitung is actually a harbor near Manado, and there another line goes to Guam. So basically, to connect Indonesia with the outside world, we go through either Singapore or we go through Guam. And so in those two locations, we have another national data center. National means it's managed by an independent organization, and it means that every ministry will have to coordinate with this data center. They can keep sometimes they're local, but it's not data center, but it's not managed by them anymore. And that is the future, but we need to implement quickly. We cannot be like sometime in the future. It needs to be now or yesterday. So that is, I think, in my way, in my thinking, that is the most important thing.
Okay. I think well put, yeah, Ilham, I think in a sense that you need a strategic approach, but also somebody who really understands the implementation of how this is going to be done, right? And yeah, so thank you very much. I think, if you need to go, it's okay, Pak Ilham.
Okay.
we'll close. Yeah, we'll close soon anyway. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it on behalf of Indonesia Economic Forum and HSBC Indonesia. Thank you for your time.
Thank
and
you.
for your insights.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. But Victor, maybe I'll come to you now for some closing thoughts, closing remarks in terms of, how do you see maybe even, implementation as a company? Bukalapak is a digital company. How do you see implementation of digital technology? I'm sure you, Bukalapak also uses AI and cloud technologies, right, for your operations. How does Bukalapak approach this issue?
Okay. I think the first thing we have to think about is that as a technology company, we don't just see technology as the main sake of technology. We have to think about what is actually needed who are our users, what are the gaps out there in the market, and then we use that technology to bridge and to help to provide the solutions. Because many times, right, we might be thinking of a very complex solutions, like for example AI and so on. But maybe the solution is how do we actually bridge this technology that we have so that it can be used by people who are very lower educated. For example, the Mitra Bukalapak, right? We are approaching it from the bottoms up. We actually get the feedback from our users who are the mom and pop shops in the market. They don't have formal educations, but then we understand if they do certain things, it might actually help to improve their livelihoods. And because it has the potential to improve their livelihoods, it's much easier to be able to bring them on board because we can say to them, look, if you actually try this is what you can do with the technologies. And from there, if you use the technology, it will help you to generate more money. And from there, they will be willing to try, and then they see the benefit, and they will be willing to learn more. So this is how we see as a technology company. This is actually a way for us to contribute to the economy at the same time to be able to make money, right? I think that's going to be the approach that we are taking.
Yeah, but do you have a chief technology officer who kind of oversees all the technology platforms that Bukalapak has and how they're integrated?
Yes, of course, right? Definitely, as a technology companies, we need to have someone who has this helicopter view to understand what are the technologies that are available at the moment, what are the future of technology in the next 5 years or so. And then, if possible, of course, we want to be in the groundbreaking, right? We have been, in last year, we actually worked with one of the universities in Indonesia to create these tech centers, innovation centers, because we want to be able to tap into these emerging technologies that are still in the incubation phase. And then from there, we want to be able to implement those as well, and then hopefully be able to come out with something that contributes to the business.
Right. Thank you very much, Pak Victor. Pak Eri, if I may come to you now, in your closing, maybe some closing thoughts or comments on this whole idea of the digital economy. How do we grow it? From the bank's perspective, HSBC, of course, is one of the largest financial institutions in the world. I'm sure the bank also uses various technological platforms and digitalization. In the finance sector, I think already you can see that digitalization is moving very fast, right? Banks today also have to be kind of fintechs, right? You have the traditional banking business, but you also have your new innovation, right? Whether you work with a fintech company or whether you have a fintech operation. From a bank's perspective, in the finance sector, what are the key trends that you see going forward, which digitalization will have an impact on operations?
Yeah, so obviously, in terms of jobs, some jobs will have to go, and that's why we are now conducting training, rescaling programs to be future digital ready for our staff. No doubt, as we digitize more, there'll be jobs that have to move to other areas. So that's that. But we continue to invest a lot in the digital technology as part of our country 5-year country strategic plan. our IT spend features very highly on that. So, you know, we although we don't have a chief digital technology officer as yet, but it's all now done under the CEO office. So we are now looking at all of the IT investments needed for across the different businesses. And I think going forward also, what is important is that banks started to collaborate more with fintechs, with payment platforms. We are seeing that even cross-border. So within HSBC, we ourselves are now looking at what platforms, you know, that is suitable for us to accelerate, let's say, business origination or customer acquisition. So it's going to be exciting. There's going to be, Indonesia is poised to support the growth of the digital economy. Within banking and the financial sector, I think there's going to be a lot of investments in technology, and there's going to be much more collaboration with the non-bank players.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've come to the close of our discussion. Let me just sum up that, I think going forward, definitely the digital economy is going to become what we call mainstream. It won't mean that only technology companies use digital technologies. Every company has to have digital technologies. So in essence, every industry, every company will have to digitalize. How they do that, I think, will be critical. But the one thing that is really, I think, very reassuring and gives us great optimism is the fact that Indonesians are very tech savvy. They can use technology very quickly. They learn how to use technology very quickly. And as Pak Ilham mentioned, the key now is to convert them into technology creators, not just consumers. Yeah? And I think that will start for education. But I think, as companies grow and new jobs are created, I always say, demand will follow supply. I mean, supply will follow demand, right? If you have the demand, people will say, okay, I need to study that, right? I need to be a good tech person in this field. So once again, thank you very much for joining HSBC, Pak Eri Budiono, Pak Victor Putra Lesmana. Please send my regards to Pak Rahmat, Pak Victor. And thank you again, HSBC, for partnering with Indonesia Economic Forum for this session on the growth sector, on the growth prospect for Indonesia's digital economy. Just to let all the participants know, the Indonesia Economic Forum this year will be a 4-day virtual conference starting from 24th to the 27th of November. We will be bringing you many interesting speakers from around the world who will be joining us. And the theme, of course, is boosting the economy post-COVID. Again, many of the themes that we discussed today will also, I think, we'll be able to build on those themes and those comments during the conference. I hope that everybody will be able to join us. Again, I apologize for the slight technical hitch that we had in between Eri's presentation. We found out that it's actually from Zoom. They were having some problems, and I think this is a challenge for many technology companies. But this is the new world, as they say. This is the new normal. We all have to adapt to it, and I think it's part of our job to also find solutions to it. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this morning in Jakarta. From wherever you may be, stay safe, stay well. And please look out for more information on the 7th Annual Indonesia Economic Forum. Thank you very much, Pak Eri, Pak Victor, and of course, Pak Ilham, who had to leave us earlier. Thank you very much, and take care.
Yang dimana shock dari COVID ini betul-betul memukul dan kemampuan kita untuk mengcounternya tidak bisa menetralisir cukup besar.
Memprioritaskan kesehatan bukan berarti mengorbankan ekonomi. sekali lagi, kita harus mencari keseimbangan yang pas.